So I followed.
To help you get through it. And so we just want to welcome you to our workshop today. Hopefully we can just provide some great tools and strategies to help you along. So to start off, we're going to have Susan Zalessi come in and just provide a welcome and just an introduction. So Susan.
Thank you, Ken. I have an itch, but I'm trying not to touch my face. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. As Ken mentioned, my name is Susan Zalessi, and I lead the instructional design team, which is one of the teams within Educational Technology Services. Hopefully you know us well. I am just providing a short introduction today on behalf of the Continuity of Instruction team here at the University of San Francisco. So you might have seen from Shirley's communications that last week a resource team was put together comprised of members of this team, as well as all the different schools and other resource areas at the university to begin planning for continuity of instruction given the current circumstances. There are two specific scenarios that we are trying to prepare for at this point in time. The first scenario is joining a more than one remote student to your classroom when you're continuing to teach a live class. So that is going to be primarily underpinned by technology called Zoom, which we'll cover today. The second scenario is in the event that as an institution, we make a decision to put all of our classes online, or have certain campuses or schools put classes completely online. And as you have probably heard, the School of Law has already made this move. We've had participants and will continue to have participants in these sessions from the School of Law. Right now, as an institution, we have not made a decision to move completely to online. However, we need to be prepared to do this. As you can imagine, it's not something that you can just do at a moment's notice. So we're thrilled that you're joining us here today. We have seen a very large interest in these workshops. We have made a decision to offer more of them. So we'll be communicating out with more information about that, as well as recording the session. So I'm not certain if Ken mentioned, but we are planning to record just so that you are all aware of that. So that is why we're all here. On the communication that Shirley posted to the community last Thursday, there is a link to additional resources which outlines the two scenarios that I just shared, as well as specific strategies to cater to teaching in the online environment to address these. And this is how we've designed our workshop today. So essentially, we are going to be walking you through each of those different strategies that's being recommended by the university. Things like joining those remote students to your live class, conducting a fully online synchronous class, doing online office hours, leveraging discussion forums for interactive discussion with students, and more. The last thing that I want to share as it relates to this is it's terrific that you're here, but that's not enough. So we really want to encourage, compel, support you in after this training, really experimenting with this technology. So after you learn about Zoom, set up a Zoom session, send it to a friend, hop on with them, play around with the technology, work out all the kinks. In addition, get in your Canvas course. One of the things all faculty have been asked to do is to add all your key course documents to Canvas. So we're going to cover Canvas today. You're being asked to move your syllabus online, any assignments, core course documents. You're also being asked to set up an online gradebook so students can access their grades. Are we to move online? So these are all things that we want you to actually go and do after the session, and then reach out to us if you're having any issues. But if you do that now, you're just going to be that much farther ahead of the game when, if and when. Although, as you know, most of our other local universities, there's announcements about San Jose, Santa Clara, San Francisco, right? We're seeing a lot of other institutions moving along online. So we really can compel you to at the very least pretend like we're going to do that too, so that the transition really for you is much less stressful if and when the time comes. So I will leave you with that. Mashara is going to be moderating the session. If you have any questions, just so that we can move through the material quickly, Mashara will chat responses. So please put questions in the chat function. Mashara will respond to you. If it's appropriate for whoever's presenting to actually address that question, she'll bubble that up and make sure that that's addressed. So I'll just stop and ask Mashara, are there any questions at this point? No questions. Okay. Thank you all very much, and we hope that you enjoy the workshop. We will be sending out a survey to collect your feedback afterwards, and best of luck. We are here to help you.
Okay, so let's get started. So let's take a look at our agenda for today. So these are the two parts that we're going to be looking at. Part one is going to be Zoom and Google Apps, really for communication, engagement, and collaboration. And you can see the topics we're going to be covering in this section. Part two is going to be Canvas, and you can see all the topics that we're going to cover there. So just to let you know, just kind of scan through there. That's going to be what our flow is going to be for this workshop. Okay, so the first step is Zoom. So one of the things that we've run into a lot is properly signing into your Zoom account. So you have your Zoom Pro account licensed by the university. So I've just kind of created a series of screenshots. So when you first launch Zoom, this is what you see: join a meeting or sign in. When you click the button sign in, it's going to take you to a login screen. You don't log in the login field. What you do is you log in, you click on the button, sign in with SSO. It'll take you to a page to enter the company domain. For us, it is USFCA. And then when you click continue, it'll take you to the My USF login. So you're signing in with your USF username and password. Then it'll sign you in, and you're going to be in with your USF licensed Zoom Pro account. Very, very important. If you don't, then there's going to be limited time for group meetings. The recording function, there's no recording to the cloud. So there's all those features that you want enabled. So be sure and do that. Okay. All right. Next is a couple of engagement things that we want you to take note of. That's just a screenshot of a meeting I took as a student, as a participant. And one of the things to note is the chat. So it's down here in the toolbar at the bottom. And so where you chat, there's the chat box over on the right side there. And you can chat to everyone, or say if you want to just chat to a particular person, like to one of the speakers, or to Mashara as the moderator, you can certainly do that, okay? The other thing is, and this would be in class, is that, what if you want the ability for people to speak? And so you can have people raise their hand and create a sense of order. So where you do that is the students would bring up the participants panel. You as an instructor are going to see manage participants. You would click on that and open up that panel. On the side here is going to be the list of everyone who's in the meeting. And then there's going to be a button called raise hand. Now the students will see that. You will not see that. You're going to see just a panel of people who are in the list, and you're going to see an indicator along their names when they raise their hand. Okay, so that would be like, say if you want to control the conversation, you want people to raise their hand just as they would in face-to-face class. You do that virtually too. So it's emulating that type of action. Okay. All right. Any questions about signing in or just some of the engagement tools? I think Angie's going to cover more of this in terms of strategy later on in our presentation. Okay. All right. So Zoom and Google, the core technology. This is the first part. So here, this is going to be if you have students who are remoting into your live classroom. So here's some best practices for setting up in the classroom. it's going to be best to bring your own laptop to the classroom. You're going to have your content on there. If you have any documents, that way you don't have to figure out some way to make sure that you get it into the classroom. Check the audio and video connections to the room projector. That includes, if you have a Mac, having the right video adapter, okay? And then plugging into the sound system properly. Microphones and webcams. So if you have this situation, how's the audio going to be for that online audience? We do have a limited number of microphones and webcams for the classroom. We just uploaded a document to our USF Teach page, which is shown at the bottom of the screen. It's called Using Zoom for Live Events in the Classroom. There's some microphones and webcams that are shown there, both affordable to buy. We do have a few that you can check out, but please, we would like you to consult with us to kind of figure out what's going to be the best setup for the classroom, for your type of class. Each class is different, whether it's lecture only and then questions or total discussion. We want to be able to figure out the best configuration for your class. And arrange the class to optimize the video and audio feed for the online students. You don't want everyone spread out across the classroom, but group them together. If you have a small class, maybe a semicircle right in front of the camera so that everybody can see each other. And same thing with audio. People need to speak up. It's no time to be shy. You're really being considerate and respectful to your classmates who are online, okay? And setting down the ground rules for discussion. Maybe a little bit different with this type of situation. And Angie, again, will go through some of the best practices for kind of guiding that discussion along, right? Or let's hold here for a moment and see, are there any questions?
So there's some questions about connectivity in the classroom for people who are bringing in remote students. Can they just connect with their Macs, or what kind of dongles are necessary, and are they in the room? Would there be?
Is this for, the question was, connectivity, is this for students who are remote?
This is for presenting in the classroom, bringing your Mac to the classroom.
Okay, so the question was for the instructors bringing their computers to the classroom. If you have a Mac, and this is true for some PCs also, they may not have HDMI or VGA connections, the usual connections to connect to the projector. You'll need to know if you have the right adapters. If you normally bring your computer to the classroom, you probably already have that type of adapter. We just want to make sure and bring it in so that you can connect properly. Okay.
So they have to bring their own. They're responsible for buying one. The university doesn't have it for them.
Is this for instructors?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, there are some rooms that have a laptop in the classroom. And see, this is particularly comes into play if you're in a room that has a podium, because the podium computers do not have a webcam or microphone.
So they could look up their room number and see what level support is in the room, yes?
Yes, yeah. Maybe what we'll do is we're gonna put a link to a guide to every classroom on campus, and it'll show all the technology that's in the room. So that'll be very helpful in kind of deciding, what do I need to connect, okay? Any other questions so far? Okay, all right. So I think we'll move on, and you can always just continue to put in questions in the chat as they go along. All right, for online, say if you're gonna be totally online, everybody's gonna be in Zoom, then these are some of the kind of the best practices, some of the basics for that. Dress appropriately. You're gonna come in with dress professionally if you were in class. You're gonna do the same thing online. And this not only goes for the faculty, but for the students too. Be presentable. Have your video on, be present. Use a quiet place for the audio. You don't want to have any extraneous sounds or distractions that are going to occur that are going to distract from the learning that's going to be going on in the class. Close any unnecessary programs, email clients, chat clients, Twitter client, anything that's going to create some noise or a notification. You want to close those off. Just quit them and not have them up there. But conversely, open up different things that you're going to need to show for the class. If you have a couple of websites, open them up in separate tabs. If you have an application, a document, as well as your presentation, open them all up and get them ready. That way there's no waiting for things to load. They're already loaded. Okay. Do a tech check. Make sure your Zoom is downloaded. Make sure you're logged in properly. Camera and mic are working. Get there if it's possible to get, just to set up early. And maybe you want to have a student come in and do a test check with you, just to kind of make sure that the remote audience can hear okay and see okay. If you have a headset, I'd certainly use it. If you're going to be, if you're limited in terms of equipment, if you have your laptop webcam and your laptop microphone, just be sure and position it properly. For example, I'm going to switch over to my laptop webcam. And so I just need to be sure and position it properly. I can't be, this off screen like this. Nobody's going to see me. And especially in the classroom on the previous slide, you just can't get up and walk around. You're going to be off camera and the students online are going to see, where did he go? So to be able to kind of frame yourself properly. Okay. All right, let me switch to the wider webcam. There we go. Okay. All right. Using a headset for, just for best audio pickup. And when you speak, make eye contact with the camera. If you tend to speak fast, I do. In fact, right now, it's just effort because I tend to speak really, really fast to slow down and be concise and clear so that everything is not only for the, if you're in the class, maybe they're used to that, but online, you want to be clear and concise. So those are some of the things to think about. Before we go on, any questions about anything that we covered? Ms. Shara?
There is a question. Do AirPods work well with Zoom?
I would test it. I tend to want to use, the question was, what about AirPods? Do AirPods work well with Zoom? Now, I haven't paired my AirPods with my computer. Usually I pair them with my phone, but test it out first. Make sure it's going to be okay. Well, like what Susan was mentioning before, if you're going to try something like, for example, AirPods, test it out with a friend. Make sure that they can hear okay, right? So good question. Any other questions, Michelle?
Ken, it's me, Yumi.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Could you put your questions in the chat?
Okay. Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead, Yumi. For now.
Yes. Okay.
All right. We're gonna move.
Yeah. So let's. We can come back for questions too, but just if you can put it in the chat, that'd be great. But we're going to have a time at the end for follow-up questions. So just write it down and we'll make that time available. All right, so let's continue on. Any other questions before we move on?
That's fine.
Okay, fantastic.
I have a question. Can you hear, Ken?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
You probably explained to me about in a presentation how to share my PowerPoint presentation on Zoom. You explain later, right?
Yes. So actually, I have a video that shows step by step. It's
Okay.
really for recording presentations, but it shows also how to share your screen, what it's going to look like on the screen.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. All right. Was there one more question, Ms. Shara, or?
No, that's fine.
Okay, fantastic. All right, let's move on. Okay, so I think this is a section for Angie, my partner, Angie Portacio, our instructional designer. She's going to talk about this portion.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm remote today, so I'm doing the this next part, but also this is the experience of teaching online. So then I'm also trying to present good best practices here. And as Ken said already, these are some tips for when you're lecturing online. And this, what we mean online is when everybody is in Zoom, including the instructor. So the first thing that Ken talked about was speaking clearly. There are times where we may talk a little bit fast, so sometimes just take it a little bit slower so students could understand the content and the concepts that you're teaching. Also, you know, add natural breaks. I know maybe in a 50-minute class or an hour-and-a-half-minute class, you could lecture first and then do learning activities or ask questions in an online environment or even in a mixed environment. And when I talk about mixed environments, when you have students remotely and you have students face-to-face right in front of you, just take a break, you know, like Ken did earlier and just said, do we have any questions? And hopefully this will address both your online students and your students that are in class with you. And it also helps you get a drink of water if you need to in between. Also, when you're presenting and sharing your screen, you should use your mouse arrow. Can you show your arrow? So this will help direct students at the part of the presentation that you're talking about. Sometimes when we are teaching in a classroom, we tend to point and gesture to the screen what we're talking about. Students that are online may not see what you're pointing at or what you're physically showing them. So by using your mouse arrow, you can direct certain concepts and items in your PowerPoint slides or your website or document so they could see what you're actually talking about. Also, when you're presenting, again, this is minor adjustments and it's going to take some time if you don't normally do this in your teaching now, is to try to avoid words using as you can see or there or here or this. Because I could easily say, well, as you can see here, and you know, you could be completely lost going, what are you talking about here? So try to be very descriptive of what you're talking about. For example, as you can see here on my slide, if you see my arrow, you can see the different tips that I'm talking about. So, you know, kind of be as descriptive as you can when you're presenting in an online environment. And one of the things that will take some practice, even on our end, we have to take some practice, is to repeat the questions that are being asked, whether it's online in a chat client or whether it's in your face-to-face class with some online students. As we can see, we had a participant say, I can't hear. So then the presenter or the lecturer or you as the instructor, repeat the question so all students know what the question is. Then they could tie in the answer that you're trying to clarify the question with. So before I move on, any questions? Okay.
Looks like we're good to go, Angie.
All right, I'm going to move on. Okay. So one of the things that we already talked about how you as an instructor should be able to set yourself up in an online environment. Another is to set your expectation for your students, and that means to be very transparent of what your expectations are. One of them that we talked about was dressing appropriately to class. Just like they would do in a physical class, you know, have them dress appropriately. I had an instructor, when I told him this, he said, oh, you mean business on the top and then maybe wear shorts on the bottom? But, you know, I think however you're going to come to class, have your students be able to dress appropriately, but which also talks about having a nice quiet place. And in that quiet place, have little or no distractions at all. This also includes not laying in bed. There was an instructor who had a class in the School of Nursing, and she was sharing with me that one of her students was laying in bed while attending class.
That will cause them to not pay attention sometimes because they're too comfortable. So I would actually recommend my students to actually sit at a desk, sit at a place where they'll have their full attention in class. And next is like, have your students do a tech check before they get into class. We normally recommend instructors to tell their students 15 minutes prior to class, do a tech check. And if they have any technical problems, to reach out to ITS help desk to get that help. Because when you start class, time is valuable and you just want to go ahead and lecture and also be able to have class keep going without dealing with the technical aspects. Next, have your students mute their microphone. I don't know if you've ever been in a Zoom meeting where everyone's microphone's on and you could hear everything in the background, or you hear people talking. It could be very distracting and it would be hard to manage. So the first thing the students should do is mute their microphones. And that way that once everyone attends class, they'll start to mute their microphone. One of the things, and this could be instructor discretion, up to you, is to have your students' video turned on. The reason why I recommend this is because so students are attentive, so students are present in class. As much as you have your video on and that you're present in class, having them have their video on will help them be present in class also. So again, be very clear to your students what your expectations are. You may have some people that turn off their video for one reason or another. So, at your discretion. Now, the last point I really want to share with you is because we had an instructor who mentioned this in class, is that, I would recommend not to have your students attend class via Zoom while they are driving. Reason is it's very distracting, but also it's not safe. And we'd like all students to be safe when they're attending class. So, if you can, maybe in your expectations is to ask students to not attend class while they're driving, because one, they won't see your presentation, and two, they will be too distracted while driving and also paying attention to class. So as much as possible, as capable as Zoom could be on your iPhone or on your phone alone, please discourage students not to drive while they're using Zoom. Is there any? Is there a couple of questions here?
In the chat room, Angie?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, a couple questions. So go ahead, Mishara.
Well, they can't hear me. So maybe-
I'll repeat
Okay,
the questions.
So, one person doesn't want students to report to class.
So the question was, what if students do not want to have the class recorded? So Angie, do you want to take that?
Is it you don't want the students to record the class, or?
No, what if the students do not want the class recorded?
Oh.
They have an aversion to that.
The instructor.
Oh, the instructor doesn't want to
want students to report the class.
Oh, so you as the host,
Or both.
yeah, so what if there's a situation where the instructor feels like the student is going to try to record it on their own? So when you're the host, only the host can record the session. The students, if they're participating, they cannot record. They're going to get a notification saying you must get permission to record the session. So yes, I can see that where, like, even in face-to-face class, you may not want the students to record your lecture, and they try to do that. So yeah, good question. And there was a second one, Mishara?
No.
Okay, all right.
I think
Okay, Angie.
the other question is about would the video option slow down Zoom? I guess it depends on their Wi-Fi connection, and true, there may be some students, or even yourself, you may not have a reliable internet connection. So I've never seen Zoom really slow down, but Ken, do you have any other options for that?
Hardly.
So if you're doing the mixed class, face-to-face students and online students, and you're going to be in that classroom, just want to test it out, you may want to contact the ITS help desk. Hey, I'm doing a Zoom session with my class. I need to make sure that the Wi-Fi connection is going to be good. Now, if you have a university issued laptop, you can connect to Ethernet. There's an Ethernet line that's in each room. Now, unfortunately, if I bring my personal laptop, I cannot connect to the Ethernet. Now, if you're fully online and you're going to be at home and you have a router that has an Ethernet connection, I would connect up just to make sure you have the fastest connection. Oh yes, and then of course, if you have like any Mac or some of the ultra thin PCs, those don't have Ethernet ports. So you're going to need to get an adapter for that. Good point, Mishara. She brought up the point that a lot of computers now, laptops now, do not have Ethernet ports on there.
And just ITS help desk loan those up?
That we'd have to check.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, we could check to see if they have USB Ethernet adapters.
Okay, let's move on. So one of the things that's challenging in an online environment is how can you facilitate student participation? In a classroom, you could be doing lecture and talking about certain concepts and content, and then impromptu, you would say, okay, let's break up into pairs, let's break up into groups and have a discussion. So in Zoom, there's some ways that you can have some class participation or student participation, but you have to determine how you want that threaded to you. One is the chat client, which you are experiencing now. If you have any questions, feel free to put the questions in the chat. And then in between, while you're lecturing or taking those little breaks, you can address the chat box and answer most of those questions. Again, also Ken had showed you about raising your hand. So then in this way, this is one way if you want students to verbalize their questions, this is one way you can manage that. Have them raise their hand, and then you can, once you see them raise their hand, for example, if I see Mishara raise her hand, and acknowledge them saying, yes, Mishara, I see you have your hand raised. Please unmute your microphone. Can you please ask your question? That way,
Raising my hand, or are you talking about raising your hand in the app?
raising your hand using the app.
And I have a couple of screenshots. I mean, we showed it before, but we'll show it again. So it'll just reinforce that.
And then you can do impromptu small discussion groups in Zoom. There's an option called breakout rooms in Zoom, and we can demonstrate that at the end of this workshop, how that works. What happens is once you select breakout rooms, students will be broken into small groups, either manually or automatically, and they could have discussions within each other based on what you're asking in that lesson. Also, the instructor will have an opportunity to be able to monitor each of those rooms, breakout rooms, like you would in class for each small group. Again, we're going to go through that at the end of the workshop. But always remember to repeat the question that is being asked. Again, this is just trying to do minor adjustments to your lecturing in a classroom, but also doing minor adjustments when you're teaching online.
And what we can do is we have the USF Teach site that has all the resources, but we can drop in the link to the breakout rooms document into the chat also, so you can have that right there too.
Okay. Maybe we'll do that later on. We're going to talk about it
later. Yeah, we'll put it in later. Yeah.
So we do have a question here, and this is a great question from Brian. He said, what should I do if I'm teaching a synchronous online class and Zoom goes down?
It's a good question. And this is where we can, later on, we're going to talk about, some of the things we can do in Canvas. What if the service goes down? We get a notification that the service is down. You may want to have some contingencies, have some things in Canvas that can, kind of take the place of that. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but as technology goes, I mean, you just don't know. But yeah, that's a good question.
Well, I think we should
Yes. And, I guess when we go through the Canvas area to have, be ready with materials, that if you can't have a Zoom session, that there's still materials to continue the teaching. Yeah.
Okay, I'll hand it over to you, Ken.
Okay, so I'm going to just reiterate a couple of screenshots here. So here I'm in a Zoom session and I'm looking at it. It's just a screenshot of a session where I'm in as a student. And so there's the chat feature at the bottom where, if faculty want to, if you have a huge class, 80 students, 90 students, and this is the case with the law school, they're going to maybe change the way that they do question and answer, where the students chat their questions, the instructor monitors it, and then goes through it as they go, right? So, but otherwise, you can, if you want to have live interaction, that there is a managed participants area for you as an instructor, but the students see participants. When they click on it, there's the list of students here on the side, and then there's a button to raise hand. Of course, you as an instructor don't see that button, but your students do. And so they'll see it, they click on it, and then you can call them in turn. One law school instructor is going to do that exact process. He's going to emulate what he does in class by, he say, okay, we've gone through this part of the lecture. All right, I'm going to call on you, or I want you to raise your hand, and he'll call them in turn because he's going to see in the list who's raised their hand, and you can call them in turn. They unmute their mic, they talk, and then they mute their mic again. So creating a process. Any questions about that part, or any of the tips and strategies that Angie had related?
I think people wanted to see how to raise hands and if they could try it.
Okay, so actually, let me go on to the next slide here real quick. Okay, so I'm going to bring up my managed participants list. And so if you click on participants, you should see a button to raise hand. And so let's see if we see some hands raised here.
Click on participants.
Right, participants. And I see that Christina Papora, she raised her hand. Mishara raised her hand. Oh, there we go. There's a lot of people. And see, this can be kind of tricky because, you might have a class of 50 to 100 students. So you really have to kind of keep control and make sure that people just don't start talking, but you call them. You call them out and say, okay, let's see. I see that that Mishara had raised her hand. You're going to be first. Maybe like Christina Papora, you raised your hand. You're going to be second. You create a sense of order. So there's decorum and order in the discussion. Now, it's not going to be as free-flowing as if you're in the class, but it ensures that everybody has a voice and everybody is heard. Okay. All right. Any questions about anything we covered so far? Any questions from the chat, Mishra? Great. Okay. All right. I'm going to bring up Mishra. She's going to come up, and we're going to talk about another mode.
I feel like I'm in a game show.
Yeah. So here, what if you want to have a different modality? You want to have, you want to pre-record your lecture, and you could do this in Zoom, and you're going to associate it with activities and assessments in Canvas. So we're going to talk about, recording. How do you record your lecture in Zoom? All right, so Mishara, go ahead.
Hi there. So with Zoom, you can record
Scoot over a little bit.
your, am I not on screen?
Yeah.
Oh.
There you go.
Can we just turn it?
Yeah.
Here.
Turn the camera a little bit.
Let's turn the camera.
There.
There we go.
There you go.
So you can record your screen, you can record yourself, or you can record them alone or together. You could also record your audio and just your audio and do a podcast. So this is going to be like a piece of content for your students to see, and whether you distribute in Canvas, which is what we're recommending. And we're hoping that you can tie some assessment and some student activities and objectives to the content that you give them a reason to watch it and to ingest it, and give them something to do related to what they're watching and make it relevant to them. We're going to go over some of the technical stuff, and I also want to say there's a new format for everybody, for most people, and so and your students as well, and so trying to keep things as consistent as possible is, under the circumstances, is the best approach, and also to let your students know that you're going to make mistakes. This webinar format is new to us too, and we don't typically give 2-hour webinars 3 days a week, so we're learning as we go as well on some things. So yeah, with that said, we'll talk about how to prepare. So okay, I adjusted that so it's not there, but all right, so we're going to talk about the presentation in general. That is, just make sure you look in the mirror before you do a self-recording and you're up close in the video. And then try to remove distractions. Like if you don't have a fixed desktop computer where you have to sit at your desk and you can move your laptop to like maybe a quieter background, that helps your students focus on you and the class, and they're not kind of looking around at you're also not revealing anything about yourself that you are inadvertently don't want to share with your students. And you're keeping them focused on the content. And the same with audio and lighting. So audio, you want it to be clear. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I'm having some vocal issues, but let me know in the chat if you can't even hear me. But yeah, it makes it less meaningful if nobody can hear you and they can't hear you clearly, or they're fighting, if their attention is fighting to find your audio and the meaning as well. It's kind of a cognitive load issue. Lighting is best as broad lighting from the front. If you can find that, that's great. You want to kind of avoid like hot spots and windows behind you, or film noir lighting. High noon shadows are, but also ultimately, we'll try to do what you can do to help your students focus by, doing those things, but there's also expedience and other concerns. I understand that you guys have a lot to attend to, so do your best with that. And when you're recording, cleaning up your desktop is pretty important. If you can hide your dock, like a lot of times in Mac, your dock floats up, or if you're showing something in Chrome, you'll have lots of bookmarks bar and lots of tabs open and stuff like that. And minimizing those distractions are helpful for students. And that gets to preparation, and that's important before you record to have an outline and to have everything that you need, which I think you said before, up ready to go that you wanted to use. Was there a question?
No.
Okay. So then you should also practice, and you can also recruit your colleagues. And if people want to stay on the call, we can do some chat room practice and taking questions, or screen sharing and taking turns screen sharing after. And then, do you need transcripts? Transcripts are good for students who want another way to review the material or access the material. And it's good for accessibility, and you can set that up in your settings. Did I put that slide? I think I put that slide in there. Oh no, I was gonna say it's in the settings.
Right, and we can, we can, what we're gonna be doing, so it's not on by default to do the auto transcripts. It's only for Zoom recordings to the cloud. It's so important to record to the cloud when you do that, so that one, it'll be in a place where you can just get the link and share it out, which Michelle will show a little bit later. But two, it'll initiate the auto transcripts. We're asking our vendor, if we turn it on for an entire USF account, is that going to impact our contract, you know, where billing or anything like that? If it doesn't, then we're going to turn it on and everybody's going to have access. You don't have to worry about it. Record to the cloud, and then you'll get the notification that the transcript is ready. So, and when they view it, it'll be a side-by-side transcript. So as the video is playing, the transcript's running on the side and they can visually see the transcripted audio from the video. Okay, so next is actual recording. So I'm going to do a little, this was a little difficult. I needed to get a screen capture of a screen capture. So this is what it was supposed to, I was trying to put the video in here, but it's not going to work out that way. So let me sweep over to the video. And so this is my desktop. And so here's Zoom. I'm properly signed in. And I have my content ready, whether it's a website. You know, I have all the tabs ready I'm going to show. I have my presentation. Gonna just queue it all up and get it ready to go. Maybe I'm gonna show an application. In this case, I'm gonna show iMovie and do some demos in there. Open them all up and get them ready. Then I can go back and go to Zoom and start the meeting. So here I can just do a new meeting, and on the drop down right next to that new meeting, I can start with video or not video. In this example, I'm gonna start without video, because I just want the screen capture. I'm going to click on the button for new meeting, and I'm going to test, of course, my speaker and microphones, make sure my microphone's working okay. I'm doing the test for speakers, doing the test for the microphone, click yes, and then join the audio. So now I'm going to show the share the screen. So let me just pause it here for a moment. So there's that button at the bottom of the toolbar, the green share screen button. When I click on it, it'll bring up the share screen. So I can share my desktop or any individual applications. Since I'm showing more than one item, not just the presentation, I'm choosing desktop. Now, but if you have audio in your presentation, very, very key to share computer sound. Check that box. If you have a presentation that has a video in it, multimedia, you want to check that box, or else the online audience won't hear it. The room audience will hear it, but not, you know, but not anybody else. Okay. Choose everything, click share, and now I'm ready to record. So I'm going to get my presentation ready, bring up my PowerPoint, go into the slideshow. So now is the recording part. So I'm going to move my cursor up to the green bar where the hidden toolbar is. And in the More menu on the right side, I click on it and select Record to the Cloud. Now you know it's recording because there's a little cloud indicator that's showing it's recording. I pause, create a break, and then I go through the presentation. Everything that's showing on the screen and your voice gets recorded. Now, say if I need to move from the presentation to maybe a website, then I'll probably, the simplest way is just to escape out of the presentation, bring up the browser, and go ahead and do your demo or your tour of a website or show some information or resources. Then you can, after you show that, you can go back to the presentation and then go click on play from current slide to go back to the point that you stopped. And then you continue on with your presentation. I'm just going to scan this forward a little bit to get to the part when I'm going to, right here, I'm going to want to show a application. So I escape out and then bring up my other tool, do my demo, and I'll just scan forward again a little bit. And then after I finish the demo, I can go back to the presentation and then finish it out there. So now I'm finished with the presentation. I'm going to pause again and then go back up to the toolbar at the top, go to the More menu and click Stop Recording. And click Stop Recording there. Now, it stopped the recording, but it'll only start processing when, oops, let me go back, when you end the meeting. So after it ends the meeting, it'll start processing. And now Michelle is going to talk about how do you get the notification and how do you share the videos.
Yeah, and it can take some time for the video to process. Like we did a long, like 2-hour webinar this morning. We still don't have a link yet, and that ended at like 12:30. So it could take some time, and then you'll get an email, and it will say, "Hi, well, your name. Your cloud recording is now available." So this link here will take you to your Zoom interface and the details for that video. This link is a link that you can share with your friends and students, whoever you made the video for. So we're going to click on this link, and this is what that looks like. So these are the details of this page. And what you want to do is use this little pen tool to edit the name and name it something really specific and meaningful, like lecture on, I don't know.
Recording specifics.
Recording specifics on this date, so that your students, when they go back and look for things, they don't have to look in the video to figure out what video is this. And then there are, okay, so then it will come with downloadable links for you. This is again your view, and you can download the audio only or the audio transcript, or this is just the speaker.
The video of the shared screen.
Review. That's, oh, and then I want to share editing. Okay, so this wasn't.
Oh,
So you didn't.
you have to refresh it.
Okay.
It's okay. When you click on this video here, there's going to be a little scissor icon. And when you click on it, you can actually trim the beginning and end. So you can't trim anything in the middle. It's not like true video edit. You have to refresh it. But you can actually trim out the, so say if you have a little extra footage at the beginning, a little extra footage at the end, when you stop the recording, you could trim that out and it'll save that way.
So could you potentially download and edit it? Or
Now,
that's kind of messy, huh?
Now you could download the video, and say if you do need to do some major editing, you could do it that way and bring it into like iMovie if you're on a Mac and do it that way, but then you'd have to put the video someplace.
Have to put it back together and then re-upload.
Right.
So so that's.
So for something like this, when you're recording your presentation, that's why, when Michelle was talking about practice, having an outline so that you can go through it, and it's going to be what you want as you're recording. You don't want to have it where it goes, okay, I can just cut that piece out later. This is not built that way. It's not built to be iMovie where you can trim and cut pieces together. It's really a one-time recording where you just trim the beginning and end. Okay.
All right, I think that's it for this segment. If you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can put them in the chat, or we can respond individually.
So Greg, were there any questions from the chat?
There was one regarding breakout rooms in Google Docs.
Okay. Right, we'll talk about that.
Breakout rooms, but that's really video.
And that's live too. Like this is
live.
not a live situation. We're talking about just
Right.
recording your lectures right now.
Right. So this is that other modality. What if we find that Zoom went down and we need to figure out some other way to get content to your students? This would be one of those ways. Now, there are other screen capture services. We also have Echo 360. We discussed this, and this is the simplest way for everybody to be able to do this. For the majority of people. If you already use Echo 360, that's great. But for most people, they're not using Echo 360. So to have some kind of tool to easily record your screen, to record your lecture, and to get the link to put it into your course, this is going to be the way to do it. Okay. And you can always you can always, what Angie was talking about before, you can always consult with us, or actually Susan was talking about, You can always consult with us later if you need some assistance or guidance. Okay. All right, so we're going to move on. So we're going to talk about online office hours. I'm going to bring in Jill Ballard, one of our instructional designers, and talk about having online office hours. Okay, Jill.
Thank you, Ken. So going back to the idea of synchronous Zoom, you're going to want to offer office hours in the same way that you would in the on-site face-to-face environment online. So thinking about how to use Zoom for that need. Couple of options. First idea would be to use open office hours. You would set a duration of time and students could stop by. So if you set this up in Zoom, this drop by idea, they would need to know what time that was going to happen, and you could either create a random Zoom generated meeting link, or you could use your personal ID too. There's pros and cons to this idea. This is very much like you sitting in your office for that 2 hours on a Tuesday or whenever you have your office hours scheduled and students stopping by. However, you may have experienced that in real life. Sometimes a lot of students drop by, and the same thing could happen with the Zoom environment. That can be a good thing, or it could be a bad thing. If you want to have a private meeting with students, the second option, think about setting up specific appointments. So each one of these would have a specific individual Zoom meeting ID, and only the student with that link could come to that meeting with you. It wouldn't be something that would be available for the whole class. So how do you set this up in Canvas? You can, how do you set this up? There's two different ways. You can set it up in Canvas, or you can set it up using the Zoom application directly. If you take a look down here at the bottom, you'll notice the document Online Office Hours through Zoom. This is available with the rest of our resources that are all aggregated in the USF Teaching Through Emergencies section. You can find that there. And Angie has put the link at the bottom on all of the pages. Any questions about that? No questions? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay, Angie, you're up now for online small group projects. So
Yep.
Go ahead, Angie.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Ken. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Angie Portasio. I'm a senior instructional designer here at USF. I'm just going to touch upon maybe the tip of the iceberg of some small group projects that you can do. And hopefully this could answer Rebecca's question about using Google Docs to have collaborative notes because of readings or whatever other activities you have them do. One way or one type of interaction that you can have for small groups is that since students also have access to Zoom, they could also schedule Zoom sessions with their small groups. We have an instructor in the College of Education who has reading groups. And what she does is have each reading group have to schedule with their group their readings, or they sign their readings, but also schedule a group discussion with their small groups. And she has some questions that that will help them conduct that meeting when they're meeting with each other. She has them also record that meeting and submit that as an assignment in Canvas. So that's one small group project that they could do. Another one is, again, you could use Google Documents. You can, if you have a series of readings for your students to do, they could create a class notes document and collaborate on it. And with Google Docs, one of the options that you could do as an instructor is see the history, and you can have them, you could see who actually participated in that Google Doc. And then you could also see if anyone has deleted anything. That's all in the history for the Google Documents. Another way to have students do presentations is that they could collaborate in a Google Slides like we did as a team. We've collaborated on this Google presentation that we're showing now, where they could share it. Either they could present using Zoom, they could present their screen and present to the class, or they could record their presentation using Zoom, just like you would record your lecture. They could also record their presentation and submit that to you as a project. And also, you know, I mentioned earlier about Zoom has an option called breakout rooms, and then these could also have impromptu small groups. And then you could also have instructions for each group to be able to communicate with each other or have a discussion in these small groups. And again, at the end of this workshop, we could probably do a demo of what breakout rooms could do in Zoom, but we'll also send you a document that is in the chat client. We could share that with you too, and how to monitor and how to manage breakout rooms. Any questions so far? If you want to know more active learning type of online activities, we are encouraging you to go to the Teaching Through Emergency page. On this page, there's also another list of other active learning online activities that you could do with your students that uses Zoom, uses Canvas, but also you could use Poll Everywhere if you're doing it for a live class. So you could check out the Teaching Through Emergency page, which is on USF Teach. Okay, all right, it looks like there's no questions, so I'm gonna move on. If you need to take a break for any minute, for any moment, feel free to go ahead and get up and take a break. We are recording the session, so after the workshop, at the end of the day, we'll be posting this recording online. So I'm just going to keep moving. We're going to talk about in the second half on moving your class to online. So right now we're going to switch gears from teaching synchronously, meaning you're going to teach live to your class, to how can you accompany Canvas with your lecture. So we're going to switch gears to online. And in this section, we're going to talk about how can you organize your content in a Canvas environment. We'll also discuss how to strategize to use discussion boards and to engage your students using Canvas discussion boards. And then also, how can you collect homework online and provide feedback and grading? All of this will be talked about within Canvas, and I'll turn this over to Greg. One last time, here's the website to USF Teach. It's usfteach.usf.edu/teaching through emergencies, teaching-through-emergencies. So this will have all the resources that we talk about today. So take it away, Greg.
Okay, thank you, Angie. This is Greg Crum. I'm a senior instructional technologist here in USF, and I do training and support for Canvas. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the tools available on Canvas to facilitate online learning. So like Angie said, I'm going to talk a little bit about modules and some other tools to kind of facilitate that process. So stepping back, you all probably know how to get to Canvas, but in case you don't, you would go to My USF, and on your dashboard there, you would see a link for Canvas. If you're not able to go to My USF, there's a direct link, usfca.instructure.com, that takes you directly to Canvas. You would log in. First thing you would see is your Canvas dashboard and all your courses. All your courses are going to be generated automatically for you based on your enrollments in Banner, the student information system. It might show up on your dashboard as faculty self-serve, but basically where you have a list of your courses. All those courses are going to be the same courses that you see in Canvas. Those are generated automatically. If you don't see your courses in the Canvas dashboard when you log in, you can always select the View All Courses link here in the upper right-hand corner, and I'll show all your courses that you've ever been associated with with Canvas at USF. Okay. So what I want to talk about is using modules. It's a core technology of Canvas is using these modules to kind of structure your course. So modules let you structure your course by weeks or units or some thematic element, like chapter 1 or chapter 2. It makes it really easy for your students to navigate your course. Students who have used Canvas here at USF and also at other universities have given us feedback that they really like the logical flow of how modules are set up in their instructors' Canvas courses. Once you create your module, this kind of area where you kind of divide your class, you can link your Canvas assets. By a Canvas asset, I mean like an assignment, a quiz, a file, a page, or a discussion topic, or something like that that you want to basically share with your students. Okay? So let me drop out of the presentation really quickly and actually go to an actual Canvas class where we've created modules. So if we go back to my dashboard here, and I'll go to my course. In this particular course, I've created a couple of modules. The first one is called Week 1 in Introduction. The second one is called Week 2, Cultural Identity. In these modules, you have these assets or things I've linked or added to the modules to kind of help students along. In here, you'll see the link. I've linked some files. In this one here, I've linked an assignment. Here, I linked a Canvas discussion. If we expand this other one out here, I've linked a Canvas page, and I've linked a discussion topic. So these are modules, basically. So if I want to create another module, I'll click the plus module button here at the top. And let's call this week 3. So once I give it a name, I click the add module button. I've created a week 3 module. I'll do that again. And I'll create a week 4 module. And I'll add a module. So I've created 2 modules here. They're empty. There's nothing in here. And they're currently unpublished. So I'm going to go ahead and publish them. Then I'll click this plus sign here in the module to actually add items. So if I click that plus button there, here you can see I'll go ahead and select files. And it'll show me all the files in my course. And I'll go ahead and link a file to that module. If I hit the plus sign again, this time maybe link a assignment I've created. And I've linked an assignment. I'll go ahead and do it again, hit the plus sign again. And this time maybe a discussion topic I've created. So I've added each one of these items to the module to kind of populate the module. If I want to click on a module item, it expands out really nicely, and I can actually see the item that I've actually linked to the module. And you'll notice down here, there's next and previous buttons that let me progress through the module as a student. This is taking a little long time to kind of render there, so I'll go ahead and skip that. If I go back to modules here, you can kind of see these modules that I've created here, okay? You can also move items between modules if I want. So that's basically a kind of very high level view of how you would create a module and how you actually add your Canvas assets or items to modules. Next, Jill Ballot from Instructional Design will give you kind of a little template to follow, very similar to this, where you can create your modules, basically give you some ideas of how to create modules and kind of structure modules. So let me go ahead and
Thank you, Greg. All right, well, as Greg's pointing out, best practice is to group content by modules. Students have some understanding of that from other courses they've been in, and so we're going to advocate for that. To make this easier for you, we've put together the Don's online template. Maybe you've heard of this. If you haven't, I'm going to show you where that is and give you a sneak peek of it. This template has the homepage, the module area components already built out for you. as well as in the modules, there's a sample module which has sample pages already built out for you, including prompting text for instructions and things like that. You can access this template through this link right here at the bottom at my USF. And you'll want to choose the Don's online template, not the Don's face-to-face template. Let's take a look at what that template looks like. Okay, so what I've done here is I've pulled the Don's online template into an empty Canvas course shell. The components that you get already pre-planned for you here are this picture at the top. You can change that picture. There's information about that. Welcome message, place for you to fill in information about the course. Let's take a look over in the modules area. This has the handbook for using the Don's template, as well as other information and getting help with Canvas for you. This would remain unpublished. There's a getting started area for student information, and all of this is editable and customizable. You can decide what you want to include and not include. We give it to you to have the choice. And then down here, as I was mentioning earlier, there's a sample module which has page components already set up for you, an organization already set up for you. So you can create a discussion or an assignment by going back to the main menu over here, or, excuse me, you can use our sample pages, which have prompting text already built in. One of the important things to consider with your students going online is that they need more instruction and reminders about what they need to do, what's due, the timeliness of it, which often teaching a face-to-face course is something you just update them on as you're meeting with them in the classroom. When you go online, this is something you need to make sure that you're giving them directly every week. So we advocate for the idea of adding an overview, grouping materials together, and then putting the learning activities assessments together, and adding a summary to make sure they're understanding what needs to have been learned, or generally to recount what's been learned during this group of time and what's coming up for the next week. Let's take a quick look at one of those sample pages. Taking a look at the assignment here. So this gives you a prompt. You would go in here and edit this, be able to add, subtract. It also has some explanation text for students to help them understand what to do to submit an assignment or to submit a posting to a discussion, for example. Okay, and just as Greg was explaining to you about how to set up a module, the same thing is true here. You could use these just as your template pages. You can copy these. Oops, excuse me, hit the wrong one.
Yeah, the quiz. You can't copy.
Yep. You can copy every one but the quiz. And I can just drag this to my actual module that I'm populating down here. So if you have any questions about that, we can help you with that. I'll ask Nashara, has anyone got a question now? Okay, great.
I do see a question.
Yes.
Okay. As an admin for School of Law Student Affairs, I do not have the ability to make modules. As we attempt to move events and info sessions online, I thought that this information on Canvas. For example, public interest grant, info session, and post information as Zoom recording deadline. As an admin? Oh, School of Law Student Affairs, I don't have the ability to make modules. Wouldn't you have the ability?
Within your own course or within another
Oh,
instructor's course?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're able to, unless you have admin access to Canvas, you're only able to make changes within your own course. If you're a TA, you may be able to do that. It's role specific.
So they could ask to be made a role.
Yeah.
So they, can you
Yeah.
say that?
Oh yes, to rephrase what Nashara was saying, if you, in some capacity, want to make changes to a faculty member's course or to another course, you need to have a role given to you to do that. So a TA role or instructor or designer role. And to have that role assigned to you, you can speak with Greg or myself, and we could help you with that. Anything else?
Could I create a course for the Dean of Student Affairs?
You can.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, can you create a course for Dean of Student Affairs? So
Mm-hmm.
that is what we kind of call like I call it like a portal course. It's not like an academic course, but if you send us an email to probably ITT@USFCA, give us what you want the name of the course to be, we can create that course shell for you. It's just like you have to manage it. You have to
Mm-hmm.
enroll students, and you're responsible for managing that course.
Mm-hmm. With the template, it assumes that you already have a course in Banner, an empty shell, and that you're pulling the template into that. So the template is structural content that's added to that Banner shell course. But we don't, I mean, assuming that all instructors with courses have that course already waiting for them. Anything else? Okay, great, thank you.
So the next kind of core technology tool in Canvas I wanted to talk about is the discussion board or discussion forum. So discussions offer an excellent way to kind of replicate that online discussion experience that you have in class online. Also, if you use the discussion board feature, you basically create a discussion topic and have students reply to that topic. So when you create it online, it's kind of shifts the time that they have to actually reply to that discussion topic. So you can put it out there and students can reflect on the responses and give thoughtful responses, either right there when you want it or some other time as well. Discussions can also be configured to be graded. So if you want to create a discussion topic, have your students reply, you can give them a grade on their quality of response. You give them feedback on, say, hey, you really thought about your responses. I'm going to give you a good grade on this, or you did not, so I'm going to give you a not so good grade. So what I want to do next is kind of give you an example of what this discussion forum or topic can look like, as well as create a simple discussion topic. So I'm going to go back into my Canvas course. Let's see. If I click on the discussions tab here, I'll see some discussions that I've created previously. So this class 1 discussion here. Here is going to be the discussion prompt or topic. Down below, these are going to be the student responses. So here's one student response. Here's another student response to that response. A couple of them actually. Here's another student response. Okay. And here's another student response. So these are what they call threaded replies to a discussion topic. Okay. So as you can imagine, this discussion thread can get kind of long, but you can always go in here and kind of look back and look at specific responses from students. Okay. So what I'll do next is actually create a discussion topic. So if I click on discussions, I'm going to go over here and select the plus or add a discussion. I'll give it a topic title. And here's where I can write this discussion prompt. So if I want students to reply to each other, I want to make sure I select allow threaded replies. If I want to make this a little bit more robust, I can say users must post before seeing replies. This basically requires a student to post their own replies before they can see anybody else's response, so they don't copy the response. If I select graded, I can make this an assignment. I'll give it 1 point. And right down here, I can assign this to everyone or to certain people. I can give it a due date if I want. When I'm done, I just select save. And my topic has been created. It's not published yet, so if I want to make it visible to my students, I go ahead and publish it. Okay. Now, since this is a graded discussion, if I go to the grade book here, I will see that topic in the grade book. Okay. So if I want to give feedback, let me go here to the speed grader. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But what this will allow me to do is see the responses for each student on that particular topic and give them a grade and give them feedback. So if I see the list of the students' responses here, and they're good and there are a lot of them, I can say, hey, you got a good grade, or give them feedback on this response. Okay. Okay. I'll show you what that looks like in an actual response for our students. So if I go back to my previous discussion, I can actually click on these dots here. And if it's a graded discussion, I can get to that speed grader view as well. And you can see here, I can see the response just for Natalie Baker. And that makes it easier for me to grade just her content instead of having to wade through all her responses for all the topics. So I continue that same process. Again, I don't have to make these discussions graded or not. They can just be simple discussions. And again, they provide a good way for students to talk amongst themselves, basically.
Somebody did ask to see how students might access the comments instructors make in the speed grader.
Okay. Yeah, so what we'll do, so the question is, how do students access the comments that instructors make in the speed grader? How the students get to those comments? So in the next section, I'll go over an assignment in speed grader, and I'll pop into the student view and go directly to those comments so you can see how that works. Okay.
Is everybody doing okay? Do we need to take a 1-minute break or something?
Yes, are you guys okay? Or do you want to take a break or keep pressing on? Okay, we'll keep going. Okay, next up is going to be Angie, and I'm trying to get her to control the screen. Just a second here. Okay. There we go. Okay.
Hello again. Thanks, Greg.
Mhm.
I think one of the challenging things to do is an online discussion board. We've had many faculty that have come to us and said, how can I make the online discussion boards a little more interesting than usually it's just a question and then students post it. Well, here are some ways that that may help enhance your online discussion board. The first thing you should do is define a netiquette or expectation policy. A netiquette policy is basically an online etiquette, meaning you'll tell your students to avoid acronyms or using caps to text because it's emulating that they're shouting. but also giving respect to others, depending on how the conversation goes, like you would in class. You may have some students who may talk more than others. So putting that expectation of keeping, maybe asking students to keep their posts short and concise, so that they're not taking up so much room, and then students responding to each other to respect each other's values and their differences. Another thing is to state a purpose. What is the purpose of your discussion board? Is it related to the readings or to the lecture that you just had? And what are you as an instructor looking for from your students? What are you gauging? What are you assessing? Do you want to gauge if they're understanding the concepts and content? Or do you want them to think outside the box and how they could apply those concepts and content using real life examples or their own personal examples? Or do you want them to do some research about that certain topic or that content and show and share that evidence in their posts? So stating a purpose will be another step. Another thing is to create clear instructions and grading. We have a lot of instructors that, will create an online discussion board and just post a question. But you should, clearly state, what are you asking for? What instructions? Do you want them to, again, do you want them to just respond to the question or summarize what they've read? Or do you want them to take what they've read or what they've listened to in lecture, and how are they going to apply it to certain situations? So, finding a medium of clear instructions so that you're clear what your students should be submitting or posting. As far as grading, again, Greg will go over grading in the gradebook in the next section, but letting them know, is this low stakes? Is a discussion board just part of participation? Or is this part of a major assignment? Is this part of the drafts of that paper where you have discussions and people are reviewing each other's topics, or you're reviewing each other's papers? So stating what you're grading and what part of the grading is. It could be in your syllabus, but you could also put that in the discussion board too. You could always repeat things, so because students don't tend to always refer back to the syllabus sometimes. Posing open-ended questions. Sometimes there may be questions and you don't want a yes or no question answer, because then if it's a yes or no, then it's a why. So you really want to get to the why part. You want to get to the part where they're critically thinking of what they need to post and gather their thoughts. So keep your questions open-ended, so students don't normally just say yes or no. Also, show some parameters for posting or replying to another student. It's not about, yes, I agree with so-and-so, or yes, I like your post. Put some parameters going, explain why do you agree with this person's post and show some evidence. Or why don't you agree with this person? Because usually if someone says, I don't agree, or I agree, it really doesn't say much to what they're talking about. Set limits. What I mean about set limits, sometimes it's harder to explain in a post in a short amount of text, right? So you can have a student write, pages and pages of a paper, but to have them write in 250 words or 500 words takes a lot of time and a lot of brain power for students. And I think using that strategy, you'll probably get more in-depth responses from your students. Plus, with your timeline, if you have 20 to 40 students and they all write pages and pages of responses in a post, I don't think ideally as a person you'd have all that time to respond to every single person that has long posts. But if they have like short posts, that are concise and that are direct to the point, it'd be easier for you to respond and give feedback to your students. Lastly is to ensure instructor presence. This is I know this is difficult because you may have, a lot of students. You may have up to 40 students. One strategy I did tell an instructor is that you might want to scan all the posts first and then gather your thoughts to responding to different themes, right? If there's a certain theme that a group of students have been following in their posts, then maybe you can either clarify and give feedback to that theme, because then you may not have time to give feedback to all 20 students or all 40 students. So doing that type of strategy. I always like this quote that I found from Margaret Barlin, when it says, "Productive discussion does not happen automatically; it must be planned." So as you try to move your course to online, think about what you want out of that discussion board, and what is the purpose and what's the objective, so you could get what you're gauging for from your students. So hopefully those tips can help you. And again, if you need more help, or you want to brainstorm more ideas of how to do different discussion boards, feel free to request a consultation with us. I've worked with faculty that have, different ranges of discussion boards, from debates to even like small group presenting in discussion boards. So we all have a plethora of knowledge and information and creativity to help you get the objectives you want from your online discussion boards. So thank you. Back to you, Greg.
Okay, thanks. So another core technology tool that we have in Canvas at our disposal is the Canvas assignment. So the Canvas assignment is a great way, actually pretty much the only way, to collect student work and give feedback. So the way you want to think about it is, if you want to collect work from students electronically, if you want to give them feedback, if you want to give them a grade, create a Canvas assignment. Okay. So there's two primary types of Canvas assignments. One is going to be an online submission assignment, and the other one is going to be on paper, no submission. So an online submission tells Canvas, hey, I'm going to accept something from my students electronically through this assignment. This could be a file uploaded, maybe a PDF or Word document or a video file, or it could be, you could provide them an area to actually type in text or cut and paste from their Word document. But the gist here is that it's a place where they can submit something electronically through Canvas, and it's associated with their profile in your Canvas course for that particular assignment. The other type of assignment is going to be on paper or no submission. So suppose you have students giving a presentation in class. There's nothing physically for them to submit or electronically to submit through Canvas. There's no upload button. It's just you're going to evaluate them outside of Canvas in class, but you still want Canvas you want to record that in Canvas. Okay. Another application could be a physical paper. So they turn in a physical paper to you. Again, you want to give them feedback on it. You want to give them a grade, but they're not turning in anything electronically through Canvas. So that is going to be an on paper, no submission assignment. Both of these types of assignments create a column in the grade book. In that column, you can click on, you can give students a grade, and you can get to the speed grader where you give them deep and rich feedback of how they're doing. Okay. So we'll actually, demonstrate all that a little bit later. Important to note that all grades and feedback you give to a student is going to be private between you, the student, and you, the instructor. So students can't see each other's grades. It's just between you and the instructor. So we'll take a look how the gradebook looks from the student point of view as well. Okay. So let me hop back into this Canvas, and I can actually create an assignment and then log in as a student to actually submit that assignment to get feedback to that assignment. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the Assignments tab here in Canvas, and you can see I have some previous assignments. So I'm going to create an assignment from scratch. So I'm going to select the plus assignment or add assignment button. And I'm going to say term paper 2 is going to be the assignment title. And here's where I can give the instructions for the assignment. Okay, so to describe the assignment more in details, I can actually go over to files here, maybe link a file or something, or reading that they have to complete that's related to the assignment. If there's an actual website I want them to go to, I can put a link to that web page there directly in the assignment. Anything I think might be relevant to them, I can embed or link here into this area here. If I go down here, I can give it a point value. So I'll say this one is worth 50 points. I'm going to leave the display grade as points. If for some reason I don't want to count this assignment towards the final grade, the cumulative grade for the student, maybe this is a draft paper, I just want to get feedback in actual grade, but I don't want that grade to apply to the total for that course, I can say, do not count this assignment towards the final grade. But I'll just leave it unchecked for now. Under submission type here, I have a couple of different options. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click online. Then I'm going to specify how online I want to receive this assignment. So I'm going to click File Uploads and Text Entry. Okay, I can select these other ones as well if I want. But I'll do Text Entry right now and File Uploads. Moving down a little bit, there's something called Plagiarism Review. So if I'm required to use Turnitin or some sort of plagiarism detection for this class, I can simply click here and say Turnitin, and it'll give me some options, and I can actually have this paper run automatically through Turnitin. Students don't have to do anything extra. They just submit their assignment as usual and it automatically checks it. If I go down here to assign to, this is who this assignment is going to be assigned to. It defaults to everyone, but I can assign it just to certain people if I want. Next, I'll give it a due date. It says it's going to be due Friday the 13th. Available from and until, this is a window that they have to actually see the details of the assignment and submit to the assignment. Outside these dates here, they cannot see or submit to the assignment. Okay. So if I don't want to release this assignment until maybe on Wednesday, I can put in that date. This until is the last day they have to submit to the assignment. So this until date, the submit button goes away. There's no more submit button. It's like a hard cutoff. So for right now, let's say save. And my assignment has been created here. If I go back to my assignments list, you'll see it here. It's in gray, it's not published yet. So if I want to release it to my students, I go ahead and put that publish button, and now it's available. Okay. If I click on grades, I should see a column there that says term paper 2. And there it is towards the end there. Okay. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in as something called a test student down here, and I'm going to submit the assignment. So I'm going to submit it. As the instructor gives feedback, pop into that student view so you can see what it looks like and see how that student sees the particular feedback. So I'm going to go back to my home page. And I'm going to select student view. And first thing I notice here is under the to-do list, there's a link for the term paper. So I can click on that to get to the term paper. If I click on grades to see my student grade book, I can see that term paper 2 assignment here and the due date. Okay. If I click on assignments, the assignment list will show me the assignments as well in chronological order, and then click on the assignment from there as well. So I click on the assignment. Here's the details of the assignment. Once I hit submit, I'll see my submission options. Since I enabled file upload and text entry, these are the two options. So I'm gonna go ahead and submit a file. Choose file. I'm gonna go to my my files here. Let's see. Let's go back one. Okay. So here's my paper. I've attached it to the assignment. I can leave a comment. And since I've enabled Turnitin plagiarism review, I can click this, I agree to not plagiarize. Hit submit assignment. And now I get this feedback here that my assignment's been submitted. If I go to my grade book, I'll see an icon there indicating that I've submitted the assignment. And because there's an icon there, not a score, that this lets me know that I'm waiting for a score from the instructor. So let me go ahead and leave the student view. I'll go back to my instructor point of view here. And if I click on the home page, notice under to do, under grade term paper 2, there's a notification that says that somebody's turned in something. There's been one submission. If I go to the grade book, under that term paper 2 column, I'll see a mark there, an icon indicating that this student has turned in something. This icon here is generating a turn it in report. So I can click on that to see the turn it in report if I want. So if I want to go ahead and grade this particular student, I can click on this little side here. You'll see this little pop-out menu icon. And I can actually grade the student here, put in a grade, and give comments. Or I can go back to the speed grader view here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So here's the actual submission of the student. I can use these markup tools here to give feedback. That's the point tool. Here's a highlighting tool. Here's a text box tool. Here I can leave a general comment. I can use these tools down here. If for some reason I wanted to download this paper and open it up in Word and use track changes in Word or something like that, I could download this paper here, then re-upload it here, attach it back for the student to see. Or I could use this tool here. This is the record the media comment tool. I can click that and I can record my response to the student. I can say, hey, this was a great paper, good, keep up the good work. And that would show up here on the side. There's another option here if I'm using Google Chrome, where I can use speech to text, where I can talk verbally, and it'll transcribe my text here, and I can leave a comment there as well. So students see all these comments here. So let me show you where they actually see these comments. Okay. So if I go back to my instructor view, the grade book, you can see that, okay, I don't think I actually give them a grade, but I'll go ahead and do that here. Okay. That's the grade for the student. Let's go ahead and log in as that test student again. So when student comes to the class again, under grades, there's actually a notification icon noting that something has been graded. So if I click on grades as a student, it's no longer the icon, but a score. If I want to see general comments that were on the side there, I can click on this guy here. If I want to see the Turnitin score, I click on that. If I want to see the feedback that was on the paper itself, I click on the paper title, the assignment title, and there's a link here called View Feedback. So this is where the students see your actual feedback. This is kind of small. You can use the, I think there's a full screen option as well to really expand that out. So that's how students see that feedback for the assignment. Sure.
Okay. So Ryan's question about grading for in-class closed resource tests, either paper pencil or a computer using Respondus lockdown browser. But what's the best way to approach testing for online-only courses?
Online-only courses. So
Repeat questions.
yeah. So the question is, I believe, is what's the best way to facilitate an online test, given that students are not going to be in class? That's a great question. In Canvas, you can create a online quiz using the quiz feature. There's certain things in there you can do to make the quiz a little bit more harder to cheat. There's nothing really that makes it 100% foolproof, but in the quiz itself, let me go ahead and just click on quizzes really quickly. There's a couple of different things you can do. And actually I have a document too that I can share later about quiz security. First thing you can do is you can unclick this, let students see their quiz responses. So when they're done taking the quiz, they don't see any of their responses. So that kind of takes care of students like copying stuff or saying, hey, I'm done with the quiz. Let's take a look at it together and for the next person, that sort of thing. There's an option here where you can shuffle your quiz answers. So if you give a multiple choice question, A, B, C, each person gets a different A, B, C. Okay. Other thing you can do is you can say show one question at a time and lock questions after answering. So they can only move forward in the quiz and only see one question at a time. So there's actually a way where you can actually randomize your question order. And this is more of an advanced topic, but if you create a question group, you put your questions in the question group, it randomizes the question order. So when they're going through the test, they see one question at a time, and they can't go back. Each person gets a different order of questions. So this, if you're worried about students taking the test together in some offline area, those are some things you can do. Okay. The Respondus lockdown browser is another tool. And if I go over here to settings, and I go to navigation, and if I go down here at the bottom, where is it? Lockdown browser, there it is. Lockdown browser, I click here and say enable. Let's see. Let me drag it up to the section here. And I hit save. That enables a lockdown browser. What the lockdown browser does is it actually only allows the student to take the test in a window in this lockdown browser. So when they open up the lockdown browser, they can only open up Canvas in your test and nothing else. Okay? Granted, if they're at home, they can use another device. But again, it's like one other step they have to go through that kind of discourages cheating. With the lockdown browser, there's something called lockdown monitor. I don't believe we have enough licenses to use that, but basically it's like a camera that records the student while they're taking the test. Some people find that kind of creepy, but that's one tool for offline high stakes tests that you can use. Okay. So let me very quickly show you how to set up the lockdown browser. You enable it. It shows the quizzes that you have currently made. And if I hit this drop-down list here, if I go to settings, I can say require respondents lockdown browser. I can give an access code if you want that they need to enter before they take the exam. I say save and close. Now, when students click on the quiz, I'll go ahead and do that really quickly here. They'll get this thing here that says it requires lockdown browser. When they go to take the quiz, it'll prompt them to download the lockdown browser software client. And this download link is a specified link just for USF. So when they download this, install it on their computer, when they open the browser, it'll prompt them to log back into USF and take them directly to Canvas where they navigate to the quiz, and now they can take the quiz. But again, they can only take the quiz and nothing else. They can't open up any other specific applications. Okay. So there is a link on our ETS website about how to set that up, and materials you can give the students as well.
There's one more question.
Sure.
If the date of availability has passed, the assignment's description will still be posted, and the submit button is the only thing that disappears. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the way that works, if we go back to the assignment here. Oh, so the question is more about the available and until buttons in an assignment, how those actually work. So if I click on my term paper 2 and hit edit, so if I put this on March, let's see, 12th. So today's actually, let me see. Yeah, so let's see. Okay, yeah, so it's the 12th, today's the 10th. It's available on the 12th until, so it's due on the 13th, but I'm gonna be nice, I'm gonna give them to the 16th to actually turn it in, right? But I'm gonna dock points after that, but they can still turn it into that date, okay? So 12th and the 16th. So here's the description of the assignment. So if I log in as a test student, and I'll go to assignments. I forgot which one that was. So it'll say not available until March 12th. If I click on it, assignment is locked until March 12th. So you don't see any of the assignment details, right? Let's go back and change that until date. So suppose it was March, this was actually due March 9th. And the until date was March 10th at 11:59 a.m. So the until date has passed. So I'll go back to my student view. And assignments. And it's going to be closed. So, oops. Let me go back to my student view, sorry. Okay. So there's no submit button here. The assignment was locked. Okay.
And I guess, did you have other content to cover? We're gonna talk about breakout rooms again?
Yeah. So one last thing. If I have an assignment where I'm not accepting anything, go add assignment. And instead of online, just do, oops, no submission or on paper. And this simply just creates a column in the grade book that you can grade in the grade book.
Why would you want that?
So you would want this if you're not accepting any online or electronic submissions. So if people come to you physically and hand you a paper, I want to mark it that they've done it. So there's a mark here for Natalie Baker. Okay, she's done it. I graded it. I looked at it. It looks good. I'm gonna give her 50 points. And she's recorded in there. If I want to give her any feedback on the paper, I read it. Great paper.
So you can keep all your grades in the same place.
Exactly. You can keep all your grades in the same place and use a mix of online and in-person assignments. Okay.
What about a timed quiz? Can you do a time limit?
Yes, that's one of the options for a quiz. So if you look at the quizzing documentation, that's one thing you can do to click on and give it a time limit as well. Okay.
I guess Ken now is going to show breakout rooms or?
Do we have time for that?
Actually, I think Angie here is going to wrap it up. Then after we have, yeah,
yeah.
and after that, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay.
Okay. All right, everyone. So I'm mindful for everyone's time. And again, I would like to thank everyone for coming today and participating in our workshops. So just as a point of reference, a lot of the resources we talked about, a lot of the guides that will tell you how to do these things are under the Teaching Through Emergencies teaching resources on USF Teach. And if you want an individual consultation, because we know every class is taught differently and every instructor is different in how they construct their class, we're available through consultations, individual consultations. So if you go to ets.usfca.edu, and on the bottom, you'll see a button for request a consultation, and you can request a consultation and we'll be happy to help you or schedule something with you individually. We could do this virtually, so we could do this through Zoom if you're not on campus or you're not available on campus, or we could even do that in person. So just send in a request and we will be happy to schedule something with you. So I know we talked about that we would demonstrate breakout rooms. So if you want to hang out for a little bit, I'll turn it over to Ken and he'll show us how to do breakout rooms and you could experience that. Also, we'll be staying on for another half an hour. So if you have individual questions after our demo on breakout rooms, feel free to stay on and we can hopefully answer your questions. Again, thank you for participating in our workshop, and we look forward to hearing from you and working with you. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Angie.
Mhm.
So you're not going to see the actual tools as they come up because it's going to be on the screen on my screen. But what it does essentially is that we have a number of people in the meeting. And what you can do is you can emulate small groups. Just as you would break up into small groups in the classroom, you could do it virtually too. So on my toolbar, I've got this tool called breakout rooms. When I click on it, I can assign, I have 12 participants, assign 12 participants into, and I'll say like, I'll just say like 2 rooms to keep it simple.
So I can't participate, so if you could select me not, because it was confusing because I was muted.
Oh, okay. So you can do, have Zoom assign automatically people to be in the rooms. Or if you know you have a couple of students that don't get along, you can manually assign. You can manually assign people to different rooms. I'm going to do manually because they're going to leave Mishara out. Sorry, Mishara.
I just can't get along with people.
Yeah. And so I'm going to start assigning people to the rooms. Okay. And let me see here. So assign, I'm going to assign 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in one room. And assign 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 5 other people in another room. So I manually assigned it, and I'm going to open all rooms. And what's going to happen is it's going to break out into 2 separate individual Zoom sessions. And then I can drop in on one of those sessions. And what I'll do is I'll join that after I open the room. So I'm going to open the rooms now. And you're going to see an indicator to join the breakout room. So go ahead and join.
So they won't be able to hear you.
Okay. So now I'm going to join in one of the rooms. Let's wait till everybody's in. And one more. Okay, so I'm going to join breakout room 1. Okay.
Hello?
So I visited the different breakout rooms, and I can also send a broadcast message. So I can send a broadcast message to the rooms. This is a broadcast message to all rooms. Okay. I can probably broadcast, yeah, I can only broadcast to all the rooms. A question came up in the other session, can I broadcast to a single room? But I can't. Closing the rooms now. Okay.
I can't rejoin. I'm trying to rejoin.
Uh-oh. Okay.
I think it's, make sure you're not on USF visitors.
No.
Okay. All right, looks like everybody's back in. So that's how breakout rooms, oh, wait a minute, let me wait till everybody gets in. Okay, all right, I think everybody's back in now. So that's how breakout rooms work. You can divide up as if you're in class and break up into small groups. You can designate how many rooms you want. If you have 30 students, maybe you want to pair up, so you have 15 rooms. Larger groups, smaller amount of rooms. And you saw that I broadcast a message to all the groups. So say if I needed to add an additional prompt, or just to let them know, hey, we got 5 minutes, and they know they have 5 minutes before I close the rooms and we get back together. Okay. Any questions on breakout rooms? I'm just looking through the chat now. Oh yeah, we had a little glitch in the wireless, so it may have disconnected some people. I'm really sorry. Yeah, it was in our room. We had some odd things going on with wireless. Okay.
Yeah, even I got disconnected. So.
Oh, you did? Okay. Let me see.
Christina has a question.
Oh, yes. Christina?
I do. Hi, Ken. Thank you for
Hi.
this. So I'm going to use this hopefully this week. There's a culture simulation that I use where I divide the class in half and they learn different cultures. And I was going to do it live. And I'm wondering if I can do it on Zoom. Is there any way for a student in one breakout session to visit the other breakout session?
No.
Okay.
I could reassign people to different rooms, but that would be as the host.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I could do that maybe for 2 or 3 students and flip them and then have them, and can you set the timer on that?
No, there's really no timer, but you just set a time and you broadcast the message to the groups. I'm going to swap you out in 5 minutes.
Okay,
So they just need to finish. And then when you click on the breakout room tab, it brings up the list and you could reassign people to different rooms.
okay,
It takes a little bit of practice. It's not like you're in the classroom and you say, okay, you over here, once you switch groups so you can have fresh eyes on the topic. It takes a little more practice. If you have some colleagues you can test it out with, it's always good to try it out first before you
Okay.
do it live, okay?
okay. Sounds good, thanks.
All right. I know that we are, we ran a little bit over, but Ange, I think we're going to be staying on for people who have additional questions, whether on Zoom or for Canvas. So we'll just leave it open. And I think there's a small enough amount of people here that if you want to speak, please go ahead and raise your hand so you can unmute your mic and so you can speak. Oh, sharing the screen?
You could try sharing a screen if you want to.
Yeah, they could do that. We had mentioned before, like say if we're completely online and you still need to do student presentations. It's not just the host that can share their screen. Anyone can share their screen. So you just want to create a protocol. You have a list to say, okay, this is the order for our student presentations. First, we're going to have this person. First, we're going to have Christina. The next is going to be Rebecca. Then G-Mark is going to be on. And then Greg. So, and you go in order, and so people know when they're coming up. Okay. And each in turn would share their screen, do their presentation, and then stop sharing. Okay. All right, so let's see. Okay, so any additional questions? All right, looks like everybody's good to go then. Like we said, this is just the beginning. So Angie had shown you the site to, the USF Teach site for resources and the ETS page to sign up sign up for a consultation. Please feel free to contact us, set up an appointment. This is an extraordinary situation. We're here to help you get you there, okay? All right. I think we're going to end our time. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll be there to help you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Amazing as usual, appreciate.
Have a great day, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.